Just say the word.
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 Hello, I'm Paul Manjel.
I'm Balnur Kseni.
And I'm Yulia Stancheva.
Welcome to Just Say the Word, a podcast in which we pay homage to our relationship with words, their meaning and their power to create our world.
In every episode, we invite a special guest and ask them, what is your word? What does it mean to you? Where does it come from?
As we immerse ourselves in the world of each guest, we will tell you the story of their chosen word and how it relates to their life's experiences, successes, and achievements.
In this episode, our special guest is Alexander Devrient, an established voiceover artist and an actor known for his roles in The Bureau and The Danish Girl. Hi, Alexander. Welcome to our studio. We can't wait for you to just say the word.
Multicultural.
That's a fantastic word, broad, meaningful, and in this particular stage of the world's history, probably something that we really need to think about. But why did you choose it? What does it mean to you?
I chose it because I'm the product of multiculturalism. You know, I have a dad who's German-Argentinian, a mother who's Lebanese, and so I grew up with this fusion of cultures from the time I was born, essentially.
Did multiculturalism come to you out of sheer practice, or was there a time that you thought, multicultural? Yeah, I know what that means. It defines me.
It's hard with the definition of multiculturalism because the slight pitfall that comes with the territory of coming from lots of different places is that sometimes there's that quest for identity, right?
Yes.
And sometimes you'd like a bit more stability and you'd like to be rooted in one place or one spot. And what comes with multiculturalism is that treasure chest of, the variety, everything that comes with it, and being open to all the different influences, but at the same time, that's who I am. And then there's days where I love it, and then there's other days where, there's more questions that come with it. So it's interesting.
I can imagine. But as your chosen path has been very much within theatre and acting and voice acting, how has multicultural, the word, or multiculturalism, how has that helped you in that area?
There's been a huge change, actually, in the industry, as I'm sure a lot of people are aware now, right, that the industry has opened up quite significantly. So when I went to drama school it's a while ago now, around 2008, in British Drama School, Drama Studio London. I had a great year there. But we were still very much told, especially as foreign actors or multicultural actors, make sure you speak RP. Make sure you get that really grounded British, relatively posh accent down,
Yes.
and then you'll be able to work in this industry. Whereas nowadays, my strength is actually the fact that I speak all these languages, that I can do all these accents, and I can therefore slip authentically in a variety of different characters and personas.
Are there kind of characters and personas of your family life that you think, oh yeah, this is Uncle somebody, or this is my cousin? Are there references like that in your life with such a broad choice?
Yeah. I mean, my granddad, funnily enough, my Lebanese granddad, he went to Cambridge, actually, because you just told me earlier off air that you live around the Cambridge area, but a long time ago.
Okay.
And that's where he started developed his passion for acting. And so he has always performed his entire life. I wouldn't call it professionally, but he's always been on stages, right?
Yeah.
And so he's definitely someone that I draw a lot of inspiration from.
I can imagine. Thinking again about multicultural, it's I'd say a real benefit in your professional life. Has it affected in any way your personal life?
Well, funnily enough, I got married 3 months ago.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you very much. And obviously I could have married having some Argentinian blood, having some German blood, having some Lebanese blood. I could have married, one of those three countries. Yes. Someone, but I ended up marrying a woman who's from Ecuador, with a Spanish passport. And so we're mixing it up even more, so...
And that's another thing, isn't it? When it comes to those mixed cultures and multicultural families, when you, my wife was born in France, by the way, so right, I have that real sense. And I'm thinking of French grannies and French grandpas and English grannies and English grandpas, and then you start trying to put all those influences or into your children, when or if that happens. And those choices are really interesting about which language comes first, what you speak. Have you any idea what your plan is going to be should you have children? Are you thinking in that kind of area?
Fantastic question, because we have discussed that quite extensively. I mean, I'm getting to the, I'm in my mid-30s, so is my wife. So we have thought about this a lot. And I grew up with German and French as my mother tongues at home. And then sort of English came into play later. Arabic was always around, but it's not a language, unfortunately, that I've mastered fully.
Yeah.
My wife speaks Catalan because she was in Barcelona. She emigrated from Ecuador to Barcelona, and she speaks Spanish and then English, obviously. So it's going to be interesting with our kids because you cannot, I mean, I think 3 languages is probably the most that you can impose on a kid, you know, maybe 4. They say kids learn languages much quicker, right? So it'll be somewhere around the realm of German, definitely English and Spanish. And then we'll see with the rest,
Exactly that. I mean, I interestingly enough, I also lived in Barcelona for many, many years. And so Catalan is another one of the influences. And when we, when I was there, back in days of videos and early CDs, I had a reasonable collection. So our kids watched whichever film they wanted, but they had to watch it in a different language. And I think hearing those words, forming those words in your mouth, I mean, it's all muscle memory as well as an intellectual exercise. It's the practice and repetition of language. So when you think again though about multiculturalism and different kinds of philosophies that come with that and ideologies, is there any sense in which they clash at the multicultural level? Are there tensions in that sense?
At a very base level, looking at the relationship that my parents had, this was something that they used to love using these sort of scathing statements to describe the other, right? Saying, oh, yeah, but you are so fiery and so volcanic because you are from the south, right? And then that's my dad. And then my mom would respond, oh, yeah, but, you are so cold and because you are from the north, And so there are these stereotypes, right, that are rooted in reality and rooted in truth that sometimes can clash. And I feel it myself because I am this mixture, this real, I have that boiling, expansive nature that sort of Arab men can have. And at the same time, I can be very, very organized and very focused and just very driven in what I do. And so that German side, I mean, I'm stereotyping massively. That can come into conflict sometimes. Which side do you let run free and which one do you try and just sort of calm down a little bit?
I guess that must be the case, isn't it? When you have those role models, or at least you've had those experiences, maybe at the moment you don't make the decision, but they're ingrained within you. They're parts of your personality, in other words.
That's exactly it. And it's interesting because obviously intellectualizing is one thing and you can intellectualize as much as you want, but ultimately it's so, the genes and it's so ingrained in you, and your conscious mind has picked up so many elements from having spent a lot of time in Germany, having spent a lot of time in Lebanon, having been to Latin America a lot. Yeah. And it's essentially then all these elements make up who you are, whether you want it or not. And you'll have some strands that just come out stronger in certain times. And if you try and control it, it's tricky. Yeah. It's better to just let loose, let go, and just say, well, I am this mix and it's okay. And it's okay.
One of the wonderful things about multicultural families, though, is the table. What kind of food you can have, because depending on you get all sorts of influences. What does the table look like when you're cooking?
It's quite funny because when we grew up in the evenings, we always had the same thing. It's called Abendbrot, which essentially translates to evening bread, which is a very German thing. So it's not a warm meal. You essentially have bread, lots of different types of bread, cheeses, and different types of ham, and a salad, and then that's dinner. So that was quite interesting because this is how we ate for a very, very long time. Now I think Mediterranean cuisine has taken over quite a bit. So at home we cook very Mediterranean as well, with lots of Mediterranean flavors, fresh vegetables, olive oil, garlic, onions, nice fish, but Lebanese food is still.
Lebanese food is, again, famous globally for being superb, that crossroads of all different kinds of influences and great wine as well.
Yeah, that's interesting that you know about the wine. They've got a wine region that's actually, they've started exporting Lebanese wine.
I mean, very much down, I think, again, talking on the multicultural side, but from the French influences and then they grow fantastic wine there. And it is, I mean, I think they keep it all for themselves. It's so good. So
they try, but it's also, production is not that big. The vineyards are not that. It's in the Bekaa Valley, which is a valley that has incredible soil and it's just perfect. It's just made for, partly made for wine production as well.
Here's playing a bit of devil's advocate, and obviously myself coming from a multicultural background in terms of my wife, languages, etc., etc. What is the antithesis of multiculturalism? Is it monoculturalism? Is there a tension between them?
I think, monoculturalism as a term, I mean, there's a sense of pride and there's patriotism, right? So I'm a patriot. I come from one country. I'm from the United States. I'm from Germany. And then there's a real sense of rootedness and belonging in terms of the region that you come from. And then you can narrow that down to a micro level. This is the street that I grew up in. This is my village. And this is where I feel comfortable and safe, and that's it. And I don't want anyone mixing into this, and I don't want to have a merger. I'm very proud to come from said village. Right?
Yes.
And I think there can be clashes for sure, but globalization has sort of moved on so quickly and so expansively that I think it's inevitable that this mix is going to just become more and more and more.
Yeah.
I understand why people would want to preserve their homes and would want to preserve their cocoon of comfort.
Yes.
Right? But you miss out on a lot.
I think that's true. I mean, I find myself, I think people who are multicultural, maybe, birds of a feather flock together. You find multicultural people. The ideas that you have are similar. So maybe it's de facto you get along. But there is that other side, which is exactly to your point, which is real deep-rooted culture, the consistency to be somebody in a place at all times. But within that, of course, there comes the danger of parochialism and protectionism and not being open to other influences and ideas. I mean, just right now, the world seems to need a really good dose of common understandings. And maybe the end of the story is that people have got to be both multicultural and want to preserve their individual corner, to look after it and preserve it. Is that how you see things?
I would completely agree with that, to be honest with you. And that's why I would never play the blame game and say, oh, but you are so protective of your environment, you want to make sure that no one else comes in. Like, it's okay, I understand if you love who you are, where you're from and who your people are, and that's okay. I think the danger is when that protectionism turns into pointing fingers, potential racism, but
yes.
and just a sense of entitlement and almost a sense of aggression towards the other.
Yeah.
I think you can be very protective of where you're from and who you are and just be proud of it.
Yeah.
Without that level of animosity that can sometimes come with that territory.
Absolutely. And talking of place, here we are in London. London, one of the most vibrant multicultural cities, I guess. We could say that would be fair.
Yeah, that's accurate.
What resonates, with London, with you? This is where you are, and how do you find the place?
London has been my home since 2008, so I feel very, very, very attached to this city. And I would argue, yes, I've worked in New York as well for a few months, and yes, New York is extremely multicultural as well. You find everything, but I would argue like one of the biggest melting pots the world has seen is London,
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of this city, is that you have people from everywhere. You will hear all languages. You can sit in the tube and you'll see all ethnicities represented sitting in one row. And that's fantastic. I think that's incredible.
Yeah, it really is, and shows you what can be done. Obviously, you need an engine, and the engine is the city, the infrastructure, the commerce, the education, all the things that go within that. But it shows it can be done. So I'm completely with you there. How does London play into the professional side of your life?
London is the city that has given me, my professional break, that has given me my first steps in cinema and first steps in TV, voiceover. Everything has sprung up from London, essentially. The plethora of jobs is incredible. And pretty much anything that you do, you'll probably be able to find a job within that field in London. And that's what I just find so incredible.
So going back to languages, what does multicultural in German, French, of the languages that come from your family, your mother tongues, as it were?
Yeah.
Can you translate multicultural easily into those languages? And does it mean the same?
In German, it's multiculturell, right? Ich komme aus einem multikulturellen Umfeld, so I come from a multicultural background. Means exactly the same thing. In French, it's multiculturel. Il vient d'une famille multiculturelle. He comes from a multicultural family. In Spanish, it's multicultural. So it's, Arabic, I checked it earlier just before coming in. It's completely different.
Right.
And don't ask me to say it because I can't remember. But I looked at it and it sounds completely different. The meaning multicultural in the Middle East is slightly different anyway when it comes to diversity and inclusion and an understanding of what a wider society could look like.
Yes.
The Middle East is trailing a little bit behind.
Well, Alex, it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you, and your background, your multicultural background, the way that you've spoken, it speaks volumes about the value of having these different influences. And I wish you all the very best in your work to come. And thanks ever so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Just say the word.
Just say the word.
Melting pot or salad bowl. These are two theories around how groups actually work in a multicultural environment. I'll tell you more shortly. But first, multi means many and is from the Latin multus, and cultural comes from the Latin cultura, which is cultivating. The late sociologist Stuart Hall, the head of the Center of Cultural Studies at the University of Birmingham in 1964, was the first to use the term. As I was saying, multiculturalism typically develops according to one of two theories, the melting pot theory or the salad bowl theory. According to the melting pot theory, multiculturalism assumes that various immigrant groups will tend to melt together, becoming one thing and one flavor. In contrast, the salad bowl theory describes a society in which people coexist but retain at least some of the unique characteristics of their traditional culture, just like the salad's ingredients, which still manage to retain their own distinct flavors. I think the second theory perfectly describes what happened in my own country, Kazakhstan. We have more than 100 nationalities living together that didn't assimilate with Kazakhs, but actually retained their cultural identities. I remember growing up, we would be celebrating Nowruz, which is Central Asian New Year, Ramadan and Eid, and also Orthodox Easter. It never mattered to us whose holiday it was. We just enjoyed the fun and lots of food.
Just say the word.
I moved from my native Bulgaria to London 13 years ago in a search for a place where I can grow my life experiences by leading a cosmopolitan and multicultural life. And London is surely one of the top 10 multiculturally rich cities in the world. It feels like the city has managed to fit the entire world within itself. If you love arts and culture, I think there is no better place than London. Call me subjective if you want, but here, multiculturalism is really deeply rooted in our everyday lives. Wonderful architecture, world-class art galleries and museums, a flourishing literary scene, rich history, a hotbed for the performing arts and for musical creativity. There is something to suit everyone in London. As Robert Palmer used to sing, it takes every kind of people to make the world go round. When it comes to celebrating our cultural diversity and honoring our heritage, there seems to be quite many favorites of all generations, movies like Coco, The Prince of Egypt, Moana, The Wizard of Oz and Paddington. In one or another way, they teach us to embrace our difference because that's what makes us unique. There are many examples in literature of how multiculturalism nurtures respect, empathy and acceptance amongst all. From classics like the Greek epic The Iliad to all of titles like The Life of Pi by Jan Martel, Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie, and 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Multicultural literature opens the world, allowing everyone to hear voices both different from and similar to their own, suggesting that although people have many differences, there are common traits that unite us. Traveling has allowed different ethnic groups to converge like never before, and has contributed to the development of multicultural art. The blurred boundaries have influenced people in different ways, and there are some great examples of art illustrating that. Like the massive face mural of Blue, a famous Italian street artist based in Bologna, who turned the 48 windows of a Roman building into diverse faces. What more pleasurable way to experience cultural diversity than introducing it on your table? Multicultural transforms into a very delicious concept when it comes to food. Bursting of different flavors, ingredients and nutrients, diversity in food has become an important part of modern life. Trying traditional cuisine from different parts of the world is not just a culinary delight, but also a great way to experience something different and to become more appreciative of the diverse cultural society we live in. You can be rooted in one place and still be open to all the different influences that come from multiculturalism. Or as our guest Alexander says, you can be very protective of where you are from and who you are, and just be proud of it without that level of animosity that sometimes comes with the territory. What does multicultural mean to you? And does it define you? Let us know. This episode was produced by me, Yulia Stancheva, for Alpha CRC. My co-hosts are Paul Mangel and Balnur Jikseni. Sound design, Alpha Studios. Audio engineers, Gerard Rodriguez and Mikosh Nanazi. With special thanks to our guest, Alexander Devrient. If you like this show, please rate, leave a review and subscribe so you never miss another episode. Thank you for listening. We will be back in 2 weeks' time.
Just say the word.
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 This podcast was brought to you by Alpha CRC. Global enterprise localization, local user experience.